Jennie Community Center. Why isn't it? It's so weird. Hi. There's no cold water. It's all warm. Sorry.
In the fridge?
No, they must have used it all. So.
Wow.
These pamphlets.
And
huh?
people come in without masks, don't challenge them.
I ain't saying nothing. We're live, by the way.
And
I was going to put those pamphlets all in the chairs, but I don't know hot water in your bathroom.
Okay.
So your bathroom. Your bathroom.
Yeah, I know.
It's weird, cause it used to.
Never had hot water there.
No, that was,
That's the type of thing.
You want the easy way in or the easy way around?
What's up, kid? Yeah. How you doing? Doing okay? Doing as good as you do. Do me a favor, will you tonight? No, I mean, just, you know, we gotta just check all the rooms and stuff.
Yeah. You got it, you got it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big building, there's a lot of.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can make it out, so.
I'll be right back.
Did you sign my petition, Hood, online? No. Yes, okay, what is the petition? For to cancel and rescind this and. I believe I did it.
What's that?
Ryder just canceled their assessment.
Good, I'll share a little bit about that for you later.
Okay, good. Good.
Lori wasn't gonna do one, was she?
Huh?
I said Lori wasn't gonna do one, was she?
I did.
Rather. Lori. Yeah.
And you probably could get it now because the nurses like got it.
I find her.
Still talking.
Yeah. Yeah.
How are you? Am I gonna take this off as we move it in recording? This is gonna be a little bit.
That's, how was it yesterday?
Monday was, I see this happening. Got a couple people standing.
Well, I tuned in YouTube towards the end, but I couldn't, it wouldn't let me go back and watch it.
At the beginning, no.
Yeah.
Contentious times. This one,
Understandably.
this one is from, she's putting out the charge. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm not going against the end of this year. I'm gone a lot of it.
It is what it is.
Yeah, well,
right?
Yeah, I gotta have to redo that, cause I forgot Mike's on his bike trip next week.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 'cause I just
we'll have
put
to figure something different out.
Yeah, I
We'll figure
put a
it out.
pledge in. Hey, there he is.
So,
Yeah, I put a
he's
pledge in
stopping
today.
somewhere, right?
Yeah.
On his bike, can't he just hold his, after that accident? No,
Put a
we're not
pledge on
doing that.
Mike's thing for that race. There's his bike ride. Yeah. Question.
Oops.
Okay, well, it is 7 o'clock, so we are going to get started here. If people wander in, we'll catch them as they come in. Good evening, and welcome to your new Child Life Community Center. I'm David Dunning, the town supervisor. I'm here with Jennie Miller, who is our town assessor. We're here to talk about taxes and assessments. One of the things, first off, I'd like to point out is that there's a big difference between Jennie and I in our jobs and what we do. Jennie sets a value for your properties. I and the town council, we're the ones that set your tax rates. We are the ones that collect the taxes. We're the ones that set that. She has nothing to do with the taxes. I have nothing to do with the assessments. I can't go and tell her what to do, what to not to do as it relates to your property values. Okay, I have no say in that whatsoever. Jennie has no say in what the tax rate ends up being. She has no way of knowing that when she does the assessments. The tax rates for the town of Child will come out somewhere around the September, October timeframe, late September. We'll know the town tax rates. As a result of this town-wide reassessment, though, the town tax rate is going to go down significantly. So the rate per $1,000 of assessed value that you pay, that rate will go down. I know that now, based on what I know the assessed value of the town is right now, and what the town needs to collect likely in tax dollars. The town is under a 2% tax cap, so we can only raise our levy by about by 2%. So, and what that means at the end of the day, the town of Child actually, our total budget, our appropriations for what we need to run the town in any given year is about $15 million. The actual levy, however, what we ask from the residents to pay in taxes, is just a little over $7.1 million. So we can only, if we went to the full 2% of the town, we could only raise that levy by about $140,000, which I can tell you that's probably not going to happen this year. I can't guarantee anything, but that brings that tax rate for the town of Child way down. So I want to touch on this part real quickly. A couple of things. I hope you all went out and voted on your school budgets yesterday, and I hope you voted them down, because those are the burden. The largest portion of the school tax or the taxes you pay are your school taxes. The town tax is the least amount of you pay. On average, well, I won't even say an average, but someone who owns a $400,000 house, for example, pays about $1,000 in town taxes. Or did last year. Most of us are probably around the $600, $700, $800 range, somewhere in that vicinity that we pay in actual town taxes. The rest of it is county and school. Okay, your county tax, I think, rate was somewhere around $9 last year, upper eights, $9, and then your school taxes vary depending on the district you're in. But it was brought up on Monday night, and I want to share this with you, because some of the information you're going to hear tonight is very important that you understand how equalization rates work. And we're going to talk more about that as we get into some things. But equalization, when we are not at 100% equalization rate, we would pay a larger portion of a school tax. And this is mostly related to school tax. It does a whole lot of other things that I can't even begin to describe and explain. But what I will say, I looked at the town of Penfield Central School District a couple weeks ago, and they showed examples of how the equalization rate affects your taxes you pay in school taxes. The town of Penfield was at 86% equalization rate. The town of Walworth, which is in the same district, was at 100% equalization rate. The town of Walworth pays $4 less per $1,000 of assessed value than the people in Penfield do because of an equalization rate. If we don't do this town-wide assessment, if we cancel it, I guarantee you your taxes are going up. Guaranteed, and they will go up more than if we don't do it. So it was brought up to me on Monday night. Town of Riga isn't doing a reassessment. Their tax rate's going up this year, or next year. This year. The town of Ogden, I'm not sure where they are as far as their equalization rate, but they're also going up. The town of Chi-Li, the tax rate for the town of Chi-Li is going down. And this is for the Churchville Chi-Li School District. I don't have Gates. Gates didn't publish this information yet. Town of Chi-Li is proposed to go down. And as is the town of Sweden. The town of Sweden will also go down. And we're going to pay, it looks like about $3.30 per $1,000 of assessed value, which is just about your town tax rate, for example. That rate, you're going to pay more if you live in Riga than you do in Chi-Li. So a $400,000 house in Riga is going to pay more in school taxes than a $400,000 house in Chi-Li. And that's because of that equalization rate. So what we're going to do here tonight is largely we want to address your questions and your concerns. Hang on, we'll get there. We want to address your questions and concerns. I'm going to ask, just raise your hand. I'll come around with a microphone so that everyone can hear your question. Come around and ask you to please be respectful. There's been, we brought this to you so that we can help you understand how this process works and what this means to you at the end of the day. We just ask, please, don't shout out your questions. Raise your hand. I'll come to you. And please, if you would, let us complete our answers before you jump into another question or you just go out. Someone else asks a question. I'll get to you, all right? We'll get to you. So this is basically your meeting. I just wanted to lay that out there. Jenny, do you have anything you want to say before we start asking some questions? Yeah, you might want to try that.
My magic microphone here. All of you got a number of handouts. They're all publications that are put out by New York State Department of Tax and Finance. When Supervisor Jennie talks about the differences between the offices and the governances that goes on there, I'm encumbered as the assessor to do the assessments in the town and to administer everything according to real property tax law. Real property tax law is New York State. While there are some local adoption options for different things, most of the stuff that I do in my office, I follow what's prescribed by New York State real property tax law. So I just wanted to clarify that a little bit because there was some confusion on Monday night when I kept saying real property tax law. I'm talking about New York State. And bear with me because I'm not sure how long my voice will hold out tonight. One of the handouts is the property tax cycle. The Office of the Assessor is on a cyclical cycle every year. We do the same things at the same times and do the same processes. Some things we only do once a year. Grievance is one of those. Once the assessments, once the tentative assessment roll is published, which is May 1st, which in this case this year, I published it on Monday the 3rd because first fell Saturday, is that the property owners have the opportunity to grieve their assessment if they disagree with it. And that's the process every year. Grievance is always the 4th Tuesday in May. So this year it falls on the 25th, which is nice because usually it falls later so that it kind of conflicts with the Memorial Day weekend, but not this year, so to speak. We're looking at a number of things when we talk about the town-wide assessment and all the various changes across the town, because it wasn't just the residential properties. It was the commercial properties, it was the industrial properties, it was the agricultural properties, vacant land, and so forth. In that mix, you're going to have different value changes for new construction, demolition, request for assessment reviews, and so forth. So there's always a mix of things going on every year when it comes to the assessments that are being published on the roll. Am I on track here?
You're good.
Try not to lose my train of thought. So one of the things that seems to be a little bit of confusion is the informal process. Yes, I am informally looking at any grievance packages that are coming in prior to Board of Assessment review. I've already called a number of people, talked with them. We've stipulated to an agreed upon value, so that that goes forward, it'll be ratified by the Board of Assessment Review. Now, who is your Board of Assessment Review? These are property owners just like you. They're all residents of Chili. They've been appointed to this board to sit there and hear your grievances. They hear both sides. They hear your side as the property owner. They hear my side as the assessor. Then their decision-making process is done in private. They don't make a decision right there in front of the both of us. They talk it over amongst themselves. They take into all of the information that's been presented to them and make an informed decision. And they do that in private, so that it is a fair process for not only the assessor, but primarily for the property owner. So.
Are you involved in that deliberation?
No, I'm not. It's done in private. I'm not, and the law dictates that. Real property tax law says that I can't be there. So they do their deliberations in private. And I just want to clarify that up front before we start with questions, which I think I've covered most everything. So.
Okay, I know a gentleman back here had a question, so I'm going to start over here.
Okay.
I get a fair amount of exercise doing this, so this is good.
I was just curious about the Wheatland School District. You've been mentioned other school districts, if you know if they're going up or not. Tax rate? Yes.
The tax rate? No, I do not. I didn't know anything about the Wheatland Chili School District right now. No. I said this Monday night. Go ahead.
My recommendation is to call the school district business office and make your inquiries directly to them. Typically with the school districts, they had their budget votes last night. I think, if I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think most of them passed, if not all of them.
Yeah, they did.
Once they receive the process once the board of review is met and heard all of the grievances, and this is across the state. This is not just here, this is across the state. Once the board is met, heard their grievances, made their decisions, notices are sent out to the property owners. The changes are then directed to the assessor to be made to the roll that are based on the decisions that the board of review made. Once that's completed, then the assessor files the final assessment roll, which is always July 1st of every year. And again, that's described in this property tax cycle. Once that's completed, I send a notarized affidavit of what the final total assessment is for the town to each school district. There's 4 school districts in China. So they all get a report from me that says, here's your final numbers. Once they have those, they will know what the rate's going to be. So.
Other questions? Questions? Did Wheatland reassess? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
We have a little bit of Caledonia Mumford, which is out of Livingston County. Wheatland, Chili, Churchill, Chili, Gates, Chili.
I just did an assessment with Jennie Miller and the board last year. I went through all the paperwork. I mean, it was like a big thing because I didn't agree with my assessment. Then what do they do it every year? Do we have to fight it every year? I don't understand this.
You can grieve your assessment every year, should you choose.
Saying you're raising, I just did this last year and got it lowered a little bit. It wasn't what I wanted. But I went through a lot of paperwork. I contacted the airport, did a lot of different things. So for 1 year, I get another assessment that is raised again $22,000. Why? You shouldn't be raising people's assessments every year. That's ridiculous.
Was your assessment changed from 2020 or was it from 2019?
2020.
Okay.
I just came last year. Now 2021 it's raised $22,000. I mean, it's not fair. I'm retired. I mean, what's going on?
So depending on, because because I have property owners that will have an assessment change, and they don't grieve it. They wait till the tax bill cycle comes out, and then they grieve it the following year. That's why I was just asking for clarification.
I came and met before you guys, I had tons of my paperwork. to
You didn't
show.
meet anybody last year.
Well,
we
on
had-
the phone.
Okay, yes, telephone conference call.
Yes. And then it did get changed, it did get changed completely what I wanted, but it went down a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of people that are retired, they live on limited incomes, I mean, so who wants to do this every year? Go through all this paper. Now, I wanna ask you, the paperwork from last year is all there, I haven't done one thing in my house. How about if I just fill out the form that you guys sent me, you have all my proof,
Then,
right?
yes, fill out the form,
Then
tell us
you
that
wanna
we
do it.
already have documentation on file.
Yes, you have all my documentation, okay.
Yep, but this was a town-wide, this wasn't just a change in a neighborhood or a change for a permit, which, again, to backtrack just a little bit, 2020 was the first year that we didn't do something town-wide. The only changes that were made for the 2020 assessment roll was any permitted work for either construction or demolition, request for assessment reviews. That was really the only changes that got made last year. Because we stepped back from it, and that's why our equalization rate went to 96%. Prior to 2020, we had been reviewing all of the assessments town-wide every year since 2001. But not every neighborhood was seeing a change every year. So that's why I was trying to just clarify if your actual assessment was a 2020 change or if it was a prior year.
2 years before that, it had come again, like when I first got the property. My dad, I had come to reassess, roll from the board. Then last year I had to do it, now again this year.
Well, again, like I said, the law doesn't say you can't not do it. You can actually grieve your assessment every single year if you want to. Well, I'm,
Let's, if we could,
Okay.
we'll ask questions, if you
Yep.
want to have something to say, you're more than
And
happy to
again-
come over and let you, so everybody else can hear it.
there are going to be questions about individual properties that I may or may not have total recall on in front of me because I can't speak to specific. I recognize your face, but I don't remember your address. Okay. All right, so you may have been one of the processes last year. I'd have to go back and look at that. So if you have information that's in the file, you have to make that known to the office when you file your grievance form. Well, if that's what you want them to review, then yes, that's what you need to do.
I got a question. How do you go about when people don't have any city water, they don't have sewers, do we get raised the same amount as everybody else does? And how about people that's got federal wetlands, you own property with the federal government, how do you increase the taxes on that?
I'm not sure about the part when you said you own property, you have federal wetlands?
Yes.
Okay.
And they checked in $11,000. And my property, I have no water, no sewer, and they jacked my taxes up $58,000. How is that even possible?
That, just for clarity, that's,
Well,
they didn't shoot your taxes up 58,000. It's the value of your
Right.
property, yes.
Well, again,
That's not true, but nonetheless.
so, again, individual properties, if you feel that your value is incorrect, that it's not a fair representation of what you think the property is worth, file a grievance form.
Well, how do you come up with this price in the first place? Where do you get this price and then tell us to come in and grieve it?
Well,
How do you determine that you're jacking the price up on the property when it doesn't have water, it doesn't have sewers, and it's owned happily by the federal wetlands? How do you people
Can you explain how it's owned by the federal wetlands? Are you in the CPR program?
Beaver Road, we hold all the water from this town, and on my property on Valentine Road, I hold all the water on the town. When the creek floods out, my property gets completely flooded out, except to where my house is, and that went up $58,000.
Okay. You would have to submit an application so I could pull that and take a look at that.
Yeah,
Because-
and we paid for water for everybody else they have about 6 years ago, and we still don't have water.
Right. Okay, so the property, the vacant land property is on Beaver? Okay,
Beaver Road is frontal wetlands. Now, my property on Valentine Road floods completely out. There's Valentine on Brooks Road, my
Yep.
neighbor right there, Larry, he gets flooded out, he don't have water, he don't have sewers, but
Are you in the-
everybody's taxes go up.
is your property on Beaver the one that's in the CRP program?
What's that?
Is your property, okay, so you're getting paid money by the federal wetlands for that?
I ain't getting paid no money from the federal wetlands.
If you are, if it's in the CRP program. That's what I'm asking. That's what I asked you and you said yes.
Well, how can they jack it up $11,000?
Well,
I cannot
that's
do
why,
nothing on that property
okay,
whatsoever.
that's why you need to submit an application. Let us take a look at it. Let the board take a look at it.
You know, it's a ring around the rosy here. That's exactly what it is.
Well, and I've already admitted Monday night that I'm not the first one that's gonna be absolutely perfect in what I do. I know that there's gonna be some mistakes out there. That's where I need the property owner to help me out, not argue with me, but help me out by filing a grievance form so I can take a look at it.
I'm trying to figure out.
And I'm telling you what the
how
process
determine
is.
that price. I'm not arguing with you.
Yep.
I just want to know how you determine that price.
Submit an application and let me take a look at it.
Pardon?
Submit an application and let me take a look at it.
There was an application that came in with your paperwork. You just fill that out and basically tell her you don't think her assessment is correct, and she'll be heard. So I'm gonna get over,
And I see more hands over here on this side.
yeah, she was up before you. Hang on a second, let me get over here so everybody can hear you.
So, for 2019, when I went in and they talked to me and they didn't, what did they do? They checked out everything and said, okay, we're not gonna raise it, okay? So, I went, how do I do that again? I mean, it's on file. I went to the town child light and they said, oh, you have to go to Howard Hanna and have them do some comps.
Well, that's a suggestion.
Is it-
They're
okay.
not telling
I
you
get
to do
that.
that.
And I
They're
haven't-
giving you that information as an example of what you can
Why
do.
didn't she, so who's gonna do this assessment for me? Do I make an appointment with you?
What you do is you file a grievance application.
Uh-huh.
If just like this this lady over here, she's telling me that I already have documentation in my file that she wants to reuse
Okay.
as part of her grievance package. That's what you need to do.
I went down there and she said, she didn't say that, she didn't say we're gonna look up your information. She just said, oh, I guess she'll have to just, she acted like she didn't know. And, you know how annoying that is? I'm sorry, but couldn't she have done it? Just looked at my file? I mean, I don't know who to turn to.
That's what I'm explaining. Please file the grievance application,
What does that mean?
the form that came with your notice.
Right here?
Yep.
And who do I give it to?
You bring it to the assessor's office,
Uh-huh.
and whomever waits on you, you tell them that you have documentation in your file from 2019 that you wish to have attached to that.
Okay, and why the other girl didn't do it? Okay. Another question is, mine is being raised by $18,000. What is there, how does that work with taxes going up?
I can't answer that.
Is it $30 for every $1,000?
No, the town tax rate currently today, the town tax rate is $3.95 per $1,000 of assessed value. That rate will go down. Your school district, depending on, and I don't know all the school districts off the top of my head, but the school district rates are around that $25, $26, $27 per thousand of assessed value. That's the school districts. In the county, I think is somewhere again around $9 per thousand. So from the town tax rate, the way that this assessment works is your town tax rate will go down significantly. I don't know that number yet, but it will go down from $3.95 to some number. Again, I don't know yet what that. They won't. The assessor won't know that. They don't do taxes. I know that. You can come and see me anytime. My door is always open, and I will be more than happy to sit down and look at the different tax rates anytime. And I say that for anybody. My door is always open. I've had plenty of people come in at any time, as long as I'm there. In the town hall. I'm at the town hall. I'm David Dunning, Supervisor. My card is back there if you want to drop me an email or phone call. My secretary, Dawn, is back there with me, and she has my cards if you'd like. So, we had a question over here too. Are you okay? You good? All right.
I think what they were trying to say over on the other side is, what's your algorithm? I mean, you're obviously doing some software, you have everyone's property in the software package, and it's somehow looking at acreage, your square footage of your house, bathrooms. What is it looking at to assess the property?
I use a real property systems software that is provided by New York State Department of Tax and Finance. How that, if you want to get down into the nuts and bolts of how that actually works, I would have to direct you to New York State Department of Tax and Finance. That would be the Office of Real Property Tax Services. Because it's proprietary software to them. They provide it to assessors across New York State to use to house our inventory of data, which is the basic information that, say you wanted to buy a house, what's the basic information you want to know about it? When was it built? What style is it? How many square feet of living area is there? How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? Whether it has air conditioning, whether it has a fireplace. But garage would be considered the improvement section, which, don't get me wrong, don't misinterpret what I'm saying. Improvement for me doesn't mean something new. It means that there's been some sort of improvement at some point in time, whether it was 100 years ago or last week. It's still considered to be an improvement to vacant land, to the property. Garages, sheds, decks, patios. I don't assess above ground pools. In-ground pools I do. And there's a whole list of other sundry of various items that you can find on any one given property. That is included as part of what we refer to as the inventory. So it's the data that we use, and then the sales that we use, which the sales are out on the town website. There's a list of sales out there that was part of what was done to do the values for this year. Did I answer your question? Well,
can we just, I'd really like to appreciate if we could keep the questions. Raise your hand, I'll come over to you.
You're asking for bits and pieces of a program that, I know enough about computer stuff to make myself dangerous. I think that's most people in these days. You're asking about specific data processes within the program that, no, I can't answer. It's as good as the information that I put into it. Yes, it is. I named off all of that. It is looking at that information. I'm answering her question, not yours. So what I'm looking at is all of that information that I keep in there, that I try to make sure is accurate, is current, because again, your value is only as good as the data that I have. If I've got something wrong, well, then my answer's not going to be exactly right, is it? Okay. let's,
My taxes are higher than my family who lives in Child and Churchill School District.
okay.
They got 10 acres.
Let me clarify real quick before, because this is a misconception that goes on all the time when property owners use the term condo. I understand why you're using that, because you're in a unit that's attached with a group of units together, but you own that unit and the land underneath it. Okay, it's ownership. Townhouse is a style. Condominium is a form of ownership. The only true condominiums that we have in Chi-Li is the Kimberly condos, which is off of Beaver Road. Looks like an apartment complex. Those are really the only true condominiums that are in Chi-Li. And they are valued differently. Condominiums are valued differently than townhomes. And that's based on New York State Real Property Tax Law 339Y. I can only value condominiums as if it were an apartment complex, and I apportion that value through the number of units. Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, again, the assessment that you've received, is it a fair representation of value for the property? If it's not, file a grievance form, please.
Is there an extension you can do to the grievance? Because I got assessed in 2019 with the townhouse.
Okay.
And it went from 125,000 down up to 170,500. It went up 36% on me.
Okay.
Then I got assessed this year because it was townwide.
Mm-hmm.
Went up another 17,300. So if I combine both those assessments, my 125,000 condo is now up to 188,000. It went up $63,000 in assessment. That's 50%.
What could you sell it for right now?
I think 165, 170, not 188, 190.
Then you need to file a grievance form and attach.
I was going to file in 2019. And so we got the forms and everything. We had a month to do it, and now this time, because of COVID, we only had 2 weeks. By the time I got this stuff in the mail, I had like 2 weeks and 2 days.
This has to do with the fact that it's a town-wide project.
It's not
When I,
time to prepare.
okay. Again, I'm not trying to disagree or agree with you, but you have to understand, with the fact that we did a town-wide project, mailed out over 10,000 notices, okay? So, I'm not saying it. Listen, I'm just trying to explain to you. Listen, okay, let me finish, please. Okay, so the X number of notices went out. New York State Real Property Tax Law says I can mail them out 10 days before board of review. Yeah, 10 days. 10 days before the board of review. That is something we do try to annually get them out sooner than that. But because of the amount of notices this year, they went out as soon as the tentative roll was filed.
Can we go on to a couple of questions and then I'll come back to you? Can we, so some other people can, I'm sorry? Oh, finish, go ahead.
How was I as a citizen of town of Chi-Li? I've been here for 50 years this August. Without your age line, I'm 59, about to turn 60. How do I, as a love of town of Chi-Li, how do I put in a request to extend the grievance day out into June?
You would need to contact your New York State legislators. No. The local law cannot be Board of Assessment review cannot be amended by local law. It has to be done at the state level. The only other...
You can
We can, she cannot extend it.
I
A
can't
local
extend
law, a local law can only be changed by the town board.
It's not her fault, but she should have the foresight to say to her, whoever she's got an issue to, look, this isn't enough town for my people in my town to respond to this. Anybody would have that.
I will be happy to talk to our two representatives in Chali about this for the future. I can't do anything about today. I can't do anything about this one, but I'd be happy to talk to our legislators to see if there is any way that can be done. But it would be up to them to write the bill and to get a bill passed. Well, the state of New York has done that plenty of times. Okay. Can I?
Right, and I understand. And let me clarify. The board meets on Tuesday, the 25th. Scheduling for, if you want to submit something and you want to speak to the board, because we're doing telephone conference calls as an option as opposed to just a write-in, we are scheduling those telephone conference calls past that date to afford enough time that if you file your grievance, you will be heard. But I can't change that date. But you have to file it by the 25th. That's the law. I can't change the law.
That's already been asked and answered, and all due respect, I just answered that question for you, so if we could let some other people talk right at the moment, I'd be.
Who, can you give us the two by name?
Senator Ed Rath is our state senator. Rath. Senator Ed Rath is our senator. Our assembly member is Harry Bronson.
I have a question, how you decided on this flyer showing your assessment going up 5%. Me and all my neighbors' assessments went up at least 20%, minimum. And I have a separate lot.
Well,
A separate lot next to us, that's wetlands, it is vacant farmland, there's nothing on it. 2/3 of it is underwater most of the year, and they raised my assessment 48% on that. Now, who decides on these things? I mean, how can you give us this flyers?
I've done the assessments. The flyers that you have, all of these pamphlets that you have, are New York State publications. New York State Department of Tax and Finance, Office of Real Property Tax Services. These are their publications. Again, the one single flyer that she's referring to that has a 5%, it's an example. Okay, it's an example. I can't, it's not my publication. Okay. Well, I'm providing you the tools that they provide me.
So we might be better off to make our assessments next year like regular, because maybe the real estate market might not be as crazy next year.
If I had a crystal ball and could answer and say yes, well, we probably wouldn't be here. But I don't have a crystal ball, and based on the sales that are continuing to come in, I don't see any change in the market yet.
High real estate market now is what you're going by. So are you going to reassess next year to lower it? With the real estate market, or whenever the real estate market starts bombing out and our value goes down?
Okay. Little bit of a different crowd tonight. Let me give a few clarifications here. Date of valuation is set by New York State real property tax law that it is always July 1st of the prior year. My date of valuation for 2021 is July 1st, 2020. The sales, which I've referred to, that are out on the town website and you have access to, which are sorted by style and then by square footage from smallest to largest, that's the sales set that I'm looking at. July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2020. Sales that are occurring July 1st, 2020 and forward to now are not part of the valuation process for 2021. Those will be reviewed as part of the analysis that'll be done for 2022. And that's done annually, not only by myself, but by New York State, because they're looking at the same thing. They want to know what my ratio between my assessed values are to the sales that are occurring. And that's part of the process where they determine what our equalization rate is going to be. So they give me a 5% leeway on that. So, and if I'm at 96%, I can declare 100 and we can stay status quo. If it's where it's going to drop, or it's 5% one way from 100, so I could be at 105 to 95. But they will not round something on me, and they will make their decision based on their process, which is the same thing as mine.
I have a two-part question. I printed off from the New York State Tax and Finance website,
Okay.
all the counties in one row and when they get assessed. So first of all, who decides how often you get assessed? And how come a town like Hamlin gets assessed in 2013? Webster, well, I think this is a typo, 2004.
It's not a typo.
So how does Webster get assessed in 04 and Mendon gets assessed in 2017 and Hamlin gets assessed in 13 and we get assessed in 19 and 21? Who decides the years between? Is that you, or is that New York State, or does town of Chili say, we're going to do it this year, we're going to do it in 2 years, we're going to do it in 5 years? That's question number one. And
Well,
then
let me answer question number one so that we don't get confused. Okay. So, New York State New York State Department of Tax and Finance will tell you that New York is a very progressive state when it comes to assessments and of that nature. In reality, they're not. Let me finish, please. Unlike other states who have mandated in their tax laws that there is a cyclical cycle on when properties are assessed or reassessed or so forth, New York State does not have that. It is left to the local level to make that decision on what they want to do. That decision is a recommendation usually by the assessor to the town board and the supervisor, or I should say town council, excuse me, as to what to do on a given year. And the decision then comes back to the assessor, whether they want to do something. Riga has chosen not to do something. Pittsford has chosen not to do something. That's their decision. My recommendation after doing the analysis to see where we were going to be at for 2021 was to do a town-wide update. That decision was based on the fact that had we not done something, our equalization rate was going to drop from 96%, which was last year, to 89%.
And if I could, I'd just like to, Jenny and I had this discussion last July.
Starting last July.
We started the conversation, and for me, I need to know, and right now I'm going to let the town council completely off the hook because they weren't involved in this conversation. So your town council people weren't involved in the conversation. Okay, so this is strictly on me. I'm sorry? I will tell you how this decision came to be, and you can determine who's accountable for it. I will take some responsibility for it, and I will share responsibility with Jenny on this one because when we had that conversation, my question, I'm not an expert in assessments. I don't know what the assessment's going to do. I don't know how that's going to financially impact the residents of the town of Chili. That's my concern. How does it impact the finances of the town of people of the town of Chili?
No, that's
Personally, matters not to me what properties are valued in town. It really doesn't matter to me at all, at that part of it, but I want to know what it means to you. So, because I get reassessed too. I had a $20,000 increase in my house too, 24,000 acres. My wife told me, I didn't even look at the paper yet. My wife told me it was 24,000. But, so anyway, we had this conversation. So my question back to her is, what's going to be the impact? Well, initially, I don't know. But should we look at it? Do we need to look at it? And the answer to that is yes. Because if it's going to negatively impact the people of the town of Chi-Li by not doing it, which this would, then I need to support that. But if it's going to have an impact that's going to cost you way more money, then no, I couldn't do that. I'd have to say to Jenny, look, let's see if we can hold off. But if we hold off today, what does that mean next year? And I'm just gonna, Jenny, please stop me if I'm wrong on this particular assessment because I'm learning more about assessments than I ever wanted to know. But so, and I lost my complete train of thought on that one. But next year. So the assessment time frame in which the look back is on properties, I believe was July 1st of 2017 to June 30th of 2020.
That's the sales
Correct?
plan.
That's the time period. So if we wait till next year, the time period would move up from a year drops off, so it'd be...
We drop off a year. And I'll be honest, I left the 2017 sales on so that I can, when I'm doing sales comps, that I can actually bring down an indicated value in some case by using the lower 2017 sales. Going forward, typically I've got 2.5 years worth of sales that I'm usually looking at. This year I'm looking at a full 3 years worth of sales.
But we've all seen what's happened even from June of last year to now. The sales have even gone crazier. The market's gone nuts. So how it is?
It is ridiculous.
Okay. I shared an article. A gentleman that was here Monday night came in to see me today. I went over an article with him that was recently published in the Daily Record, which is a legal publication. Town of Chi-Li is the hottest real estate market in a 12-county region. It is the hardest place to find a home, and the inventory is completely low, and that's what's happening. What's happening is interest rates are really low, so people are saying, well, another $20,000, $30,000, not a big deal because my payments, which a lot of people look at as their payment, not necessarily what they're paying, but their payments are lower, so they're buying houses, and it is. A friend of mine bought his house in the year 2000, paid $98,000 for it. I don't know what the assessment was. So he's had the house since '98. Just recently put it on the market at $174,000. Seems pretty reasonable. 1,400 square foot colonial. Seems reasonable, right? Sold the house for $220,000. That's how crazy the market has gotten. But people are willing to pay that because the interest rates are so low. And quite frankly, there's more money out there than I think a lot of us know and understand at this point in time. But I want to go back to what we were talking about. Jenny and I have had this conversation back and forth, and it was finally come to the conclusion that it is in the best interest of our residents to do this assessment now than to wait. And will your taxes, your town taxes, most likely definitely going to go down. And that's all I can control, that's all the town board can control. Your school taxes are up to you. If you're going and you're supporting those schools, then, shame on you. Your taxes, it's great. We all want the kids to have great education. We want the teachers to be taken care of and well taken care of. But your school taxes are out of control. That's the bulk of your taxes, and that's something that I can't control. Only you or all of us collectively can control. And that's where a bulk of this comes from. What's that? Huh? But see, everybody's all upset about their money. How much more they're going to be paying in taxes. And I'm telling you, your town tax is what's under our control. Myself and the town council, that's under our control. Your town taxes, your tax rate will go down. Most likely your taxes will either stay flat or go down just a little bit, but most likely that'll happen. Is there some that might go up a little? Yes, that's possible, but it certainly won't be much. I know none of us want to go up at all, but it's possible. But it's your school tax, and as I've already demonstrated, the church, because of this assessment base, townwide assessment base, your school tax, and because we're at 100%, your school tax in Churchville-Chili, and I believe Gates-Chili also announced that theirs is going down also. I don't know about Wheatland, and I don't know about Caledonia-Mumford. But nonetheless, those are going down. Those rates are going down. What that means at the end of the day, I have no idea. I have no idea what that's going to mean to you at the end of the day. But it's your school taxes that are killing you, not us. You had another question, right? Okay. Did I answer that part of it for you? Did we answer that for you? We decide.
And if you're doing it this year, can you promise us residents that you won't be doing it for another 3 or 4?
No, I can't.
So you can technically do it again next year when the prices are high, and then you could really screw us over and take some more?
I won't know that answer until the analysis is done, which is usually in the fall.
But if
To-
all
to
the
see
houses
where
are
we're gonna
gonna
be
go
at.
for like crazy amounts, wouldn't it be to your advantage to reassess this again? Because everything's 40 and 50 and 60,000 more?
Let me, Yeah.
Can I jump in a little bit on this
sure,
one?
go ahead, then
Well,
I
just-
want to address the sales
It's okay.
question.
Just the same as the process that Jenny and I went through over the past year, we would do that again.
We do that every year.
We would, I'm just saying, I'm saying, we would have the discussion to see what the impact is on doing assessments, whatever that assessment might be. We would have that conversation, and then we would understand what that impact is on the town residents. So she can't promise, I can't promise anything until we know what the position of the town will be at that point in time. Yeah.
But that's their decision.
And you know what's going to happen? When a town doesn't reassess for that much time, what happens to their property values eventually? Or their assessments? So when you get hit for instead of, you have a $100,000 house and all of a sudden you get a $300,000 assessment because your neighborhood would, realistically went up, how happy are you going to be living in that town? Well, that's just it. And that's what will happen to these towns. If they don't do assessments and they leave assessments alone, someday you're going to pay. It's going to happen. Am I right?
That's correct. And one of the things that, when you talked about, I heard somebody in the back say Webster. Okay. Their equalization rate is 74%. Well, that means that they're only at 74% of market value. Because it impacts what your tax rates are.
If you don't do any improvements to your home, you should get reassessed. That's how I feel. And that's how it's always been. Now every time you turn around, you're getting reassessed. When you don't do one thing, you're out. I know people come and add on, and you get whatever.
Yeah.
That comes to town, they're adding on back, they're adding on this, and I understand them to get reassessed. But if you have got money to your house, it shouldn't be getting reassessed every year. You know what I'm saying?
I can't select it. That's called, what you're describing is selective assessing. And that is against the law in New York State. Okay. That's a legitimate reason to adjust the assessment on a property. But I can't pick and choose those that aren't doing permits that have either done, I don't know that you've done nothing. So, okay, let's not argue about that.
Okay.
So back to your question though, about the sales, okay? I'm looking at the sales all the time. Every time I get a delivery, I get a deed from the county for every transaction that occurs in Chili. And I review those sales. Yes, there are some sales that are coming through that I just look at it and go, I just laugh, because there's no way that that neighborhood X supports that sale that just occurred. I have the prerogative to invalidate that sale, okay, to get it out of the system so that when I do my analysis, I have a better idea of what the realistic market is for a particular neighborhood. And I that throughout the town. Every year. And then I have that discussion with the big guy over here to see where we're gonna be at.
Here we go with fat jokes again.
Okay. I had to throw one in somewhere along the line.
You know, Jenny, one of the things I just heard, you know, as far as who cares if your equalization rate is down here and all that other stuff, who cares about that? What I said when we started off, you have a $400,000 house in Webster. I don't know what the other school districts are in Webster area, but if you're a $400,000 house in Webster and a $400,000 house in, let's call it Parrington, and Parrington is assessed at 100%. They have they're at 100% equalization, right? And you know what? I don't completely. It encompasses a lot of things, but it tries to equalize things across the school district. Okay, is the best way.
And New York State sets that rate.
Right.
We don't.
So now, Parrington's at 100%. Webster's at 74%. On a $400,000 house, the people in the town of Webster pay more in school taxes than the people in Parrington. Is that fair? Should you not pay the same amount of taxes as the other town? Well, if you don't do this at 100% equalization rate, somebody's not paying their fair share. So that's why when I pointed out on this other sheet, Riga is going to pay more in school. A $100,000 house in Riga is going to pay more money in school taxes than a $100,000 house in the town of Shiloh. Is that fair? Well, it happens because that's the way the equalization rate works. Because if we don't have a whole lot of choice in all of that. We don't have a lot of choice.
What was your second part of your question? Let's get that addressed.
Okay, the other part was, you said that it's a select few of people who, you know, are unfairly assessed and then come to you with their grievance. Well, 588 people signed a petition that they are unfairly assessed. So it's not just a random person here and a random person there that's out of whack. 588 people who, many of them didn't see this petition, they're not on Facebook, they're not on Residents of Chi-Li. So when you say it's a random person here and a random person there to file a grievance, why is 588 people all think their assessments are out of whack?
I'm not sure that I said that.
You just told this lady, like, if hers is out of whack, then she should file. If hers was out of whack.
I'm telling individual property owners, I'm answering their questions, that if they feel they disagree with their assessment, there's a process. And that's for everybody. That's not just for these two ladies.
So 588 people said they disagreed with their jam.
And every one of those can file a grievance, and every one of them will be heard. Maybe, and that's okay.
Give me some sort of scenario so I can understand. How could your assessment go up 33%? I live on Brook Road. I have no house security. I have no public water, no gas. I have like 40 acres, 6 of them flood constantly.
Do you farm?
And I have 40 acres, you probably live in 4 acres of farm.
Do you farm any of that acreage?
20.
Do you get an ag assessment on any of that acreage?
Yes.
Okay. Chances are you had an increase in your assessed value. Part of that was driven by the updated, let me hear me out. I'm trying to explain, I'm trying to answer your question here. Part of that process for the agricultural properties, and again, agricultural properties in Chi-Li are their own little subset of everything else that goes on, because most of the property owners that either farm or they rent to farmers get an ag assessment. It's an exemption off of their taxes. But that is, yes, it comes with a price. However, that changes every year, that ag assessment, because New York State sets the price per acre on the soil group breakdown, and that's based on typically the farmer files a Monroe County Soil and Water Conservation They get a soil group worksheet that shows the acreage that they're farming and what soil groups that they're in. This is all tied to the value. So the price per acre was adjusted for agricultural land, i.e. tillable land, pasture, vineyards, which we don't really have. We got one that's actually trying to start, but
It's field crops.
it's
But
field, yeah.
another point of mine is, in the lease, it's nice that when you got a lease because you're gonna get paid even the paltry amount you're gonna get. But the farmer can't plant it because it's so wet.
Okay.
Why? Because what was it, that RG did that project.
Oh, the Rochester Area Reliability Project?
Which was good for the town of Charlotte, because in perpetuality, you're gonna collect tax money on that from RG&E. Well, good for the whole, that's okay. But I'd like to pull it on that one, because I still like public water.
Okay. So let me finish about your ag though. The odds are your ag is, your assessment went up because the increase on the, most likely on the agricultural land.
You couldn't even plant last year.
I'm not worried about it planting, it's still agricultural land. Just because you miss a crop on a year does not constitute a change in use of the property.
About 2 out of 3 years.
So,
That's ag.
okay,
And ag is affected by.
let me finish.
Changing women.
Let me finish
That's
and then-
affected by changing the water flow along the tracks when they did that project. Now, that includes Black Creek that goes back to my property, which goes to ditches. We take all the water from all the area. So how does my agricultural property stay the same? It doesn't.
Well, if you will let me finish explaining the agricultural breakdown. The odds are is that even though your assessment increased, the agricultural assessment exemption increased also. It's very likely that you might have got a $33,000 increase in value, but that doesn't mean you said 30.
33%.
30. Oh, my bad. I misunderstood. The likelihood of is that your agricultural assessment exemption increased also. So your taxable value may be actually less than what you think it is.
I'm sorry, what?
Your taxable value, after the exemptions have been deducted from your assessment, the actual taxable portion either could have gone down or not changed much at all, even though you saw a significant increase in your assessed value overall. That's tied into your ag assessment. And if you think that your acreage that you're is not farmable now, that's going to, in the future, that could impact your assessment. And as far as the drainage goes, you're talking about something that was part of the RG&E project, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Have you reached out to them regarding the drainage process?
No, what is RG&E going to do about the drainage?
Well, I don't know. They might consider coming in there and doing something to help mitigate that.
I'd like to know more about that, if you would, please. If you grab my card on the way out, drop me an email on that.
Yeah,
I will be on the phone before the end of the week with our representative for RG&E, and I will make sure that you're getting those answers, all right?
I mean, typically drainage issues, I would direct you to our Department of Public Works. However, what you're describing to me sounds like something that you need to go back and talk to RG&E.
And we can do that very easily before the end of the week. As long as I get your contact information, if you drop me that email, we'll hook you right up with RG&E to get those answers.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a statement first, and then I'm going to ask a question. So, there are 20 towns in the county. Only 5 have done assessments this year. Some have stated the reasons why they're not doing it is because of the abnormally high property values due to the pandemic or whatever other reasons you want to state. But I think that's a fact that houses are selling above asking price, etc. I want to share some numbers. In 2019, my taxes went up $2,300, 39% school, 23% town. This assessment has a similar increase in home value. So my fear is that I'll see a similar increase in taxes. I think some of the reasons that I'm hearing from my neighbors, etc., they're asking to rescind the assessment is because the benefits of not assessing are going to be outweighed assessment, because school taxes are also based on home value, and they went up 39% for me 2 years ago. So whatever benefit by doing this assessment that we would experience would be outweighed by the increased tax that the assessments values in school taxes.
If I had a crystal ball to tell you that that's an accurate statement, I would. I don't know what the school districts are going to do. Again, I'm not part of that process.
But you admit that the assessed values have an influence on the school taxes, so if we don't do an assessment, that stays the same. So whatever benefit you can do without doing the assessment is going to be outweighed by that process.
There's no guarantee that the tax rate will not go up. It'll likely go up again. That's what I'm saying. If we didn't do this, the tax rate for the school district, the tax rate for the town of Chi-Li, I can't speak to the county, but those will all go up. They will not go down.
But if my house is assessed at 21% more, and the school tax is based on that assessment, how is that not going to outweigh the benefit of not doing the assessments?
I don't have the formula right in front of me, but we did, I sat down with my director, I sat down with my director of finance last week, and we went over some of those numbers to the best we could, based on what we knew about where the school districts were at that time. And it showed that your school taxes would definitely go up, your town taxes will definitely go up. And the tax rates will go up, which will also increase your taxes. Your taxes will definitely go up because the rate's going up. So but no, not from what we saw in the numbers we ran, no.
So let me ask you one more question. If the town of Chi-Li was to consider rescinding this assessment, what process would have to happen? How would that decision?
Well, no, no, that wouldn't be Jennie either. It would probably be my call. I would probably have to direct Jennie to rescind this, and that doesn't mean they'll all go away. Some of them will stay. Some of them will have to remain because there are things in there that do have to be reassessed. It likely, I don't know from a timing standpoint, Jennie, and I can't speak to that. What it would do to everything. But it will. What's that? I will tell you, I'm not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. I'm not trying to hide anything. I will take responsibility where I'm responsible. All right? I have no problem doing that. You elected me to be fair and honest with you. I'm being fair and honest with you, and I will continue to do that. But and we will. But I don't know what that would with the process. Some people here in this room, some people over here Monday night, some people may still get a new assessment. It doesn't cancel all the assessments. It can.
Well, if the project was rescinded, then basically the roll would go back to whatever the values were on the final roll for 2020. The exceptions to that would be any work that was done for permit, i.e. new homes that were built, new commercial properties that were built. Those would still be processed to have a value change for 2021. Your equalization rate would then drop to 89%.
Which then that school tax rate will definitely go up. And I can promise you right now, your town tax rate will go up. This building was $17 million. $17 million.
So if we want to rescind the reassessment, how many people do we need on a petition to get it rescinded?
That's not a question I can answer.
Lori, how many do you have, did you say?
Well, we have 588 and another 50.
So you have about 5%. No, hear me out. Don't, let me.
I don't know the percentage.
I'm telling you, you have about 5% of the 10,000, over 10,500 properties that were, I'm sorry, half a percent. So I'll tell you this. You want me to rescind this? You all want me to do that? Okay, so everybody that just said yes. Whoa, no, let me. You said yes.
I do say yes, but that's only because the word is not out. The word is out.
The word is definitely out, I can tell you that. Jennie, I know, has been getting a lot of emails and phone calls. I've been getting a lot of emails and phone calls, and we've been addressing them all. Okay, so you have a petition with 0.5% of the 10,500 properties. So for the other 99.5% of people you want to speak for, correct? Am I right? So, I'll ask you here today. Go to your lawyers tomorrow, drop a piece of paper. Get them so that when those other 99.5% go up in taxes, pay more in taxes next year, you all will compensate them for that, correct? You'll all pay for that. Why not? No. You're telling me to rescind something that could cost them more money. I can't do that. It's not fiscally responsible. It is not fiscally responsible. I can't, I don't do the assessments. I can't make that promise. Hang on, one at a time.
If you guys will,
Just raise your hand and I'll come to you with the mic and you can ask a question.
as I stated earlier in the meeting, the town of Shiloh has been doing what's called annual assessment every year since 2001 up to 2020. We stepped back from it last year. And again, that had to do with, that decision was made long before COVID, okay? That decision was made because we were hoping that we would see the market either stabilize and flatten out. Instead, it's continued to climb. So that decision for this year was to do something now, as painful as it is, it's for the fiscal responsibility of the town and to the property owners. It's not popular, okay?
It's never a good time for a reassessment.
No,
Never.
it's not.
Never. Pardon? Our jobs? I've been here 14 years. No, that's okay. I've been here 14 years. Jennie's been here longer.
20
Pretty
years
much.
tomorrow. 20 years tomorrow.
Oh, happy anniversary.
Okay. I'm too young to retire.
It is very complicated, very confusing, and I gotta tell you, I sit and listen to, Jennie and I have been talking about this a lot, and I said to start out earlier, I've learned more about assessments than I ever want to know, and I'm not even close to being an expert in it at all. So it is very complicated, it's hard to understand. That's why we're trying to do this, to do our best to help people understand it a little bit if we can.
So you said you did the assessment for this year, figuring because the housing market is going to be up for 2021. So for next year, are you going to wait to see if the housing market levels off, like you said, for previous years, or are we just going to do it again?
That's a good question, and quite honestly, there's an analysis done on the sales every year, and that's usually done in the fall. It's the same analysis that New York State Department of Tax Finance does every year to see where the town is at as far as determining what their equalization rate is going to be. And I know I keep harping on that, but it's a very important number for a lot of things that have to do with the town and your tax rates. So I won't know that answer until we're able to do that analysis later this fall. And then I sit down, just like I do every year, with the supervisor, and we have the discussion on, I'm usually giving 3 choices of scenarios. Here's what's going to happen if we do an update. Here's what's going to happen if we do nothing. And what's Plan C? Okay? What decision needs to be made as to whether what we're gonna do for the year upcoming? And again, moving forward, again, I'll be dropping off those low sales. I'm gonna be picking up the newer sales. Also, my date evaluation for 2022 will be July 1st of 2021, and where we're at.
Lori, can we, hang on, we've got other people that want to have questions.
Has the tax assessment ever gone down? Will it ever go down? So that's my fear, is that with next year, everybody's income seemed to have gone up with all the government money that was coming in. So when all these assessments go up and people can maybe just make the payments, if the town gets assessed next year with a $30,000, $40,000 more, you know, and the market not really being what it normally is, isn't that going to push people out of their homes? You know, is the assessment ever going to, has it ever gone down in the past, first of all? And what do you think is going to happen?
In answer to, well, first of all, you kind of confused me because I was trying to figure out if you were talking about the tax rates or the assessments. Okay, the assessed value of property.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, I have reduced assessed values on property. In fact, there were some people this year that got a notice where their assessment went down. Not a lot, but they're out there.
All right, can we handle one question at a time?
I'm sorry, I was listening to that gentleman's question right there.
Thank you, because it's hard to get a word in edgewise, and I've been sitting very patiently for a long time here. So I dropped my grievance tonight.
Okay.
And coming to the meeting, very much appreciate what you've had to say, because obviously it's a complicated process that none of us understand very well. I'm angry, like a lot of people, that not only my assessment, but in turn the taxes associated with that will go up. And I understand the frustration and passion in the room. What I don't understand is just a couple of questions about the process. We're given a number that we're assessed on, but we're not provided with any comparables. The earlier statement was go see Howard Hanna. Howard Hanna does not work for us. Howard Hanna is a business. It's a business to make a profit. You guys do work for us, and I think it would be respectful and fair if you shared those comparables on the form so we understand how your decision process came to be. Number two, if you're putting comparable properties on the town site, which I did not know, that was not communicated, or I didn't read, could be my fault, in that letter in any place, and that would have been very helpful, because all the information that I pulled was off a website. So I would just ask you to consider your process to be fair to us. Help us with your expertise, knowledge, and database that you have to understand where your decisions are coming from, so that we can at least agree or disagree on a fair basis.
Okay, so let's go to part one. Comparable sales. One of the things when we're doing this is I'm going to step back for a second and explain some of the processes as far as the assessments go. What I am doing is called mass appraisal. I'm using the RPS system, the software that New York State provides me to do computer-assisted mass appraisal. I'm not doing a fee appraisal on every single property in town. So part of the analysis that's done, which again is usually in the fall, to figure out all the different various neighborhoods that Chi-Li is broken up into where we have grouped like homes, is, well, the analysis may indicate need to adjust those assessments by 10%. So I'm going to trend all of the assessments in that neighborhood by 10%. Neighborhood B, the sales analysis indicates that I need to adjust those neighborhoods to bring them in line 8% or 15%, depending on where we're at time frame right now. 15% is probably an average number. Moving forward throughout the neighborhoods, throughout town, those adjustments are made. There were some neighborhoods where I did go through based on age and the last time they were reassessed, is I did run comparable sales on those, and I used the market values as opposed to a trended value. Usually what most of Chile is pretty much homogeneous enough that I'm able to trend the values that are out there, as opposed to running market comps. That being said, anyone who has emailed me and asked me for those comparables, I have provided them that information. Okay? My business cards are back there in the back too. The majority of the properties in Chile, as far as their assessments, is a trended value for their neighborhood. So once I've done that, then there's a review process where I go back and I look and see how did those values line up. Kind of goes along with my sales file. I've got all the ranches grouped together. I've got all the colonials grouped together. I've got all the splits grouped together. How does those line up based on their size and amenities and square footage and so forth? And I'm looking at that. That's part of my process to find those outliers where I've got something that doesn't quite line up. Maybe I have 3 split levels that are all the same size. Now, they may have different other things, like a deck versus a patio, an in-ground pool versus an above-ground pool, that are slight differences between what in reality they are, but how do their assessments line up? And that's what I'm looking at when I'm doing my review process. So most of you, what you've got was a trended assessment. But if you want your comparables, I can provide you that, if you ask. I'm part 2, and I've talked long enough, I've forgotten what part 2 was. Refresh me.
So on the letter, if you provide information on it, because you do that, you have a file as we ask.
Well,
So now I know enough to ask, but I've already turned in my grievance, so.
You can still email me.
Okay.
You can still email me.
Okay.
It's just like property owner. I had someone drop off additional information today that they've already turned in a grievance package, but then they decided that they wanted to add information, additional supporting information to the package. We're happy to clip that right to it and move it right along. So it's a process that is going on throughout New York State. Grievance Day, there are a few exceptions. Grievance Day is the 4th Tuesday in May of every single year across New York State. It's not just here in China. Just because RIGA is not doing an update, they still have a Grievance Day. Okay? Same with Pittsburgh. Just because they didn't do their update, they're still having Grievance Day. And the process is pretty much the same. You submit the application and provide some supporting documentation on what you think the value is. And the form, let me jump in before we do any more questions here, because we've gotten so many. It's a state form. I'm sorry. I would make it a lot simpler if I had a choice to be able to do it. But again, that form covers all the aspects that are found in the real property tax law when it comes to board of review. Page 1, your name, your address, your phone number. Is it a residential property or commercial property? Number 6 at the bottom, that's where you put your new tentative assessed value at, the value that you just got. Number 7, really important on the front of the form, number 7 is where you write in what you think the value should be. Page 2, 1 through 6, you fill out what's applicable. If you haven't recently purchased your home, if you haven't recently done an appraisal or anything like that, you leave it blank. But if you're attaching something to the form as documentation, put an X in number 7. Move on to page 3. Page 3, A, B, C, and D. I have attorneys that can't do this one right. No, I have attorneys that mark every single one, A, B, C, and D, and fill something out. You're only supposed to pick one. For the average property owner, it's B, bravo, okay, excessive assessment. You think it's too high. That's the one you pick. Okay, Let's go to number 1, we put a little X. 1A, you go back to page 1 and whatever you had in number 6 is what you fill in there. 1B, you go back to number 7 on page 1, the number you're asking for, that's what you fill in there. And then you go to the back of the form and sign it, section 5. Unless you're having somebody representing you, that's usually where the attorneys fill it out. But you sign section 5, certifying that to the best of your knowledge, this information is what you want the board to consider. And you're done. So, it looks more complicated than it is.
Jenny, we have, I don't want to cut you off, but we only got a few more minutes before they throw us out of here.
Okay.
And a few more minutes after that before these lights get turned off. So, we have a gentleman back here that's got a question. Are we okay with that?
Yeah.
No, we don't work in the dark.
Just a quick question. You had mentioned that if we kind of held off on this year, that our taxes would go up substantially more. What is that percentage based on? Because I know the maximum percentage it can go up is 2% per year. So if we held out on this year, it would go up 2% versus if we didn't hold out when we do this, is it 1%? Is it
0.5%? That's a multi-part question that not all the parts fit together. First of all, it's the levy or your budget that could go up 2%, no more than 2%.
Not the tax rate.
Not the tax rate. Your budget doesn't change that much. It's the rates that can change, because if you drop to 89%, let's do a hypothetical here. Riga did an update, they're at 100%. Chilai didn't do anything, we dropped to 89%. We're going to pay the higher tax rate for that school district, for Churchville Chilai. And I'm using that as an example, because I live in Gates Chilai. So, and that's because the equalization rate, our equalization rate dropped. We pick up more of the burden. Think of it like a seesaw, okay? The total assessed value of the town goes up, tax rate comes down. Works the opposite way too. Because you're looking at your assessed value versus market value. If we're only at 89% of market value, we're going to pick up more of the tax burden across the board, town, county, school. That's just the way it works. Did I answer that okay? I mean, we have like just a couple more minutes. Is there any final questions before we wrap up tonight? I'll be honest. I've been forced to learn more about equalization rates than even I wanted to know. I've just learned more about assessments. So,
is there a tool available where we can plug numbers in and see what the differences would be with these rates, similar to like a mortgage calculator? I think people would feel more comfortable if they knew how each.
That's a very interesting idea. Unfortunately, no, I don't.
I would think because we won't know with the equalization rate drops what our tax burden will be on the school district for sure with any certainty until they actually run their numbers.
Right,
but we do know based on historical type trends, those numbers go up quite a bit. And even in that scenario I talked about earlier, flip it around, we said we don't care if Riga pays more money than us. What if it's the other way? What if we're paying more money than Riga? And that's where that equalization comes out. So.
And let me just throw one thing out real quick as an example. I know I see Schwartz on something he's on. In 1996, when the town did a full town-wide reassessment, where they went from, I believe it was, and please don't anybody ding me if I'm wrong here, because I'm going off the top of my head. The equalization rate was 9.56. So your assessed value was somewhere around $4,000. By going to full value, the premise, and this was happening in the late 80s through the late 90s across New York State, where most municipalities did a full-blown reassessment and went to 100% of value for the assessment purposes. It's easier to understand. If we were at 9.56% and your assessment was only $4,000, how do you understand where that's at? Well, the other shoe on that is that I think it was Churchville Chilai I looked at, because it was the tax rate was for $335 and something cents. That boggles my mind, but again, that was in 1995, and we went to full value in 96. Going forward, we've been trying to maintain to being at 100%. One, it affords you to know what a realistic value is for your property. Two, it keeps the equalization rate at 100% so that we're not seeing the huge shift of the tax burden onto the property owners here in China, regardless of what school district you're in.
Got one last question we get.
I just got a question. You kept referring to the state analysis value that they come out with in the fall.
Yep.
Is that something that, I mean, I've never heard of that before. Is that something we can go online, or where can we get that information to see the trend that the state puts out, or how, if it goes up all the time, or if it goes down, or?
You can go out and look at, historically, look at the equalization rates for the town of Charlotte. If you go out to the New York State Department of Tax and Finance website, do you have email? Okay, send me an email, and I'll send you the link. But they have a folder, and it has equalization rates. And if you drill down into it, you can look at across New York State, historically what the equalization rates for any municipality to include villages. And yeah, that was it.
Okay. Question, well, we're really kind of out of time. Go ahead, I'm listening.
So basically you're saying we're competing with the other school districts?
No,
Yes, and we're saying if we do staff.
we're basically competing for,
Less. I know less taxes and stuff than housing and rental. But I think, I'm just saying, I could just suggest you just lay out there, you get some stupid.
Oh, I like suggestions. Yes. We have a little bit, not much.
we can't do that. We can't equalize the school districts. The school districts establish their own budgets, the school districts establish their own levy, and the school districts establish their own tax rate. We can't go in and tell all the school districts, now you gotta all do it the same. We can't. We have no authority to do that.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. You're saying that if for example, I live in Gates Child School District. Okay, right now Gates is at 100% because they did their townwide reassessment last year. They're still at 100%. So now that we're at 100%, we're on a level playing field with Gates Child. That's what you're talking about.
It'd be the towns. It'd be the towns at 100% assessments, not the school district.
Yeah.
The towns.
Right.
Yeah, we'd love to be able
I
to
have
see
better
the towns
odds
at
of winning the
100%.
lottery than that happening, I'll be honest. Yeah, but ideally, I think that makes perfect sense. Is it the reality? It's never gonna happen.
All right, well, we are out of time. Thank you all for coming in tonight. We greatly appreciate it. Our cards are back there. If you have questions or concerns in the meantime, again, my door is always open. Please don't hesitate.
Sure, here we go. Thank you.